Yo, what's good? Welcome to Observing the Process. Before we start, I'm hoping you can help me out by supporting the show. You can rate and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and like this video, or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my website. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. Today on the show, I had Arthur King. Arthur has his own podcast called The Bing King Podcast. Before I started podcasting, Arthur actually had me on his show, and I had such a good time, it's one of the reasons I wanted to start my own. Today we talked about our experiences in Shanghai and our goals. Please give it up for Arthur King.
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion too?
Or do magic.
Well, it's easy if you try, dude.
3, 2, 1. Okay, we're live. Arthur, how you doing?
Hey, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has
I'm
been
really
a
happy
while.
to see you. Yeah.
You were the first person to have me on. I did my own podcast with you.
Yeah.
It was the first time I ever did a podcast.
You were actually one of my highest listened to podcasts at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
great.
That's an
I
honor.
was really happy to have you on because you blew up on Instagram, and then all of my American friends were like, "Oh, here's another English episode." So
Yeah, that's
it
what's
came up.
interesting about your show is actually you do English and Chinese.
Yeah.
Was that like something you thought about when you were starting up the podcast?
I
or-
did. I thought about it actually a lot, and it was a really difficult decision for me because I knew that the Chinese podcast scene, and it still is very young. So I knew that it was still coming up, and I didn't know if I wanted to catch on the Chinese fans or already have a built-in English listener base. So I was kind of like, all these Americans and expats already know about podcasts. For Chinese people, that I kind of have to go through an education thing where they have to be like, oh, is this something that I'll actually listen to? And in the end, I kind of decided I'm going to play the long game and have maybe less listens in the beginning, but hopefully catch on this wave of Chinese podcasters.
Right. I mean, because podcasting is interesting. It's the radio has been around for way longer than video and all that stuff, But then it's like radio had a resurgence with podcasting. I looked into it.
Yeah.
I think Apple invented the word podcasting.
Yup.
I actually remember I was such
Yeah.
a geek and I would watch all the keynotes that Steve Jobs would do. And when they were announcing iTunes, it might have not been in the first iteration of iTunes, but it was
a little bit
somewhere
later, yeah.
in the very early stages of
Yeah.
iTunes. They just oh yeah, we're going to do this thing called podcasting.
Yeah.
It's amazing that a brand kind of started that.
Yeah. But they came up with it and no one listened to it. And everyone was just like, this is stupid. I remember listening to podcasts from DJs.
Really?
DJs would put their an hour set on podcasts. And I'd be like, well, is this what podcast is going to be? But I used to listen to, and my friends from New York would know this, DJ Boris.
DJ
is
Boris.
one of my old favorite DJs back in the States. And Boris would put on these 1 hour, 2 hour sets of just jungle beats. And it would be awesome. And I would just listen to an hour of his set.
Yeah.
And it was sick. But that's what I thought podcasts were for the longest time.
Oh, that's funny. My first experience with podcasts. Oh, what my first experience was? TED Radio Hour. I don't know if you listened to any of those.
I didn't, but I know of them.
Dude, I got emotional to some of those. They were
Really?
so I started listening to them I was studying abroad in Australia, and I don't know. You know what it was? I would take the bus to school. That's why I was like, okay, I'm taking the bus. It's 30, 40 minutes, and I don't know. After I was always just such a music, everything.
Yeah.
But then I guess someone introduced me or someone told me, oh, try listen to one of these. And the stories they would do were so interesting. I felt like I was learning something. Yeah, and then the editing and the way they would prepare it, it was just super fascinating.
So what do you listen to now?
What do I listen to now?
Podcast-wise.
Podcast-wise, yeah. I guess obviously Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Super fun and educational and you're having a good time.
Yeah.
But other than that, This American Life, I listen to The Daily, New York Times. Sometimes there's this vlogger, David Dobrik, and he does.
I don't know.
Yeah, he does like a comedy podcast.
Oh, cool.
But mostly, I like to listen to This American Life or Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan, I can just put on in the background, and it's so easy just to cruise. What about you?
So, I recently had my family in town. I guess it was a week ago. And my sister, I tried to get her to listen to a Joe Rogan, and she was like, "Oh, I don't like Joe Rogan," and I never really dug into it. And I asked her, I was like, "So why don't you like him?" And she's like, "Well, he has like a lot of alt-right kind of like affiliations." And I was like, "Does he?" And I mean, if for us who listen to Joe Rogan a lot, we know that it's not true. Like he's pretty lefty.
Yeah.
But like she was always kind of like, I'm kind of iffy on it. But she gave me a couple of podcasts that I haven't gotten into. So I don't want to like say that they're good. But what I've been listening to would be a lot of history stuff. So I listen to Hardcore History with Dan Carlin.
Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing. It is still to this day my favorite podcast. But I got into My Dad Wrote a Porno. I don't know if you've listened to this.
What?
It's ridiculous.
That's the name of a podcast.
That's the name of the podcast.
I thought you were about to tell me a story about your dad writing a porno.
But it is this British guy, and he finds out that his dad wrote a porno and has written several erotic novels. And it's him and his friends reading it chapter by chapter and just like ragging on his dad. It's hilarious.
That sounds amazing.
It's so funny. And so they just sit there and they read it through, chapter by chapter, and they're like, "What is this writing? It's terrible." But I mean, imagine if your dad wrote a porno.
That would be pretty insane. That's another interesting thing is like, there's so many different ways to do a podcast.
Yeah.
I think actually the surface is still being scratched on the, different angles that you can approach doing one. Because for me, this is the most simple version.
Yeah.
Raw conversation. Most simple way to do a podcast. But then there's people like Serial, which is a branch of This American Life, who did amazing storytelling, like episode by episode. And every once in a while, there are new podcasts that come out. Something about, I forget the name of it. There was this woman, Elizabeth, who she was like this crazy corrupt person who through medical tools or something, she would from Silicon Valley. Okay. And what exactly am I looking for? She had this new technology that she claimed would be able to, when you do a blood test, like right now you have to take a lot of blood.
Right.
But her technology would allow for just like a tiny prick of blood to do all the tests that you would do. Whoa. So it would like be revolutionary for healthcare and all of that.
Cool.
Basically, the tech was not there at all. Complete scam. So then someone did like a documentary by podcast telling the story of how this happened. Bad Blood, I believe, is the name of the book and or the podcast.
Yeah.
But
that's insane.
Yeah.
I can't believe people can get away with scams like that nowadays.
Right. And that was what's so crazy about it is, and I think it was an interesting story about, money in Silicon Valley, how they'll throw so much money at something. And like a lot of the story behind these types of scams today through Silicon Valley is like, with technology, you don't need that much proof behind it right now. It's just kind of like, the concept and the theory is there. Like we keep pushing it, we keep working at it. Eventually we'll make money. Like, Uber doesn't produce a profit.
Yeah.
They just keep saying, eventually we'll make money, but they haven't. And it's like, so it's just like that mentality of we'll keep going and eventually it will make money is how a scam like this can exist.
I mean, you look at Bernie Madoff, right?
I was watching videos recently, just the other day, about there's this YouTube channel called Cold Fusion, and he broke down Bernie Madoff.
It's crazy. Yeah. I cannot believe how many people just, why not?
Steven Spielberg. So many people.
Right? Because you think, like, how is this possible that he got into so many people's pockets? And people are just like, why not? Yeah. I believe in this guy because everyone else does. And it's kind of all that kind of group thing. People are like, well, they're doing it. And if they're pretty like risk averse, I guess I could do it. It's a pretty safe place to put my money. Because I did a lot of finance when I was younger. And so I'm a pretty risk averse investor. I'm not like some guy that'll put a lot of my money into something weird. And I looked at it. And even I was like, yeah, why not? Like this guy, seems pretty legit. Go for it.
Did you know of Bernie Madoff before the scam happened?
In business school, right?
What
like
year?
You heard about it. I graduated in 2008. the worst time to graduate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was absolutely the worst time.
The worst time to graduate. But you'd heard about it like in business school, and people were like, "Oh yeah, yeah," and why
Because
not?
he got exposed in '08, actually.
Yeah.
So while you were in school, it was like the prime of his scandal, I guess.
yeah, right,
Wow.
crazy, right?
So you saw it as a case study while it was happening, and then I'm sure you've studied it a little bit after.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So like you just can't believe that funds that make more money than he does actually still invested in him.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? I'm a fund that makes more money than this guy. Why would I put my money into his thing? Like that makes no sense to me. But yet people were just like, yeah, I'll put my money in there.
Yeah, it was pretty much just like so apparently in the very beginning you didn't have to really know him that well, or you had to know someone rather. You had to know someone that like could get you into the door for it. So it was more of like you already trusted the person that got you in, so why wouldn't you trust him? And
Right.
it was just like kind of a perfect storm for him, just like letting people in. And pretty fascinating.
I also think there's something about it to have that, like, you have to know someone to get here, right? When we had Horizon, the club in Shanghai, I was on the Bund, and we tried-
Horizon?
yeah,
No, I never. It was before my time, I guess.
it was 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And we tried to think of like a lot of cool ways to make it more exclusive, because it's really hard in Shanghai, especially to do like a high-end club and be very exclusive.
Wait,
right?
did you work there? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so we thought of a lot of ways, and we were like, maybe, you know, every time you want to come in, you need like a code, otherwise you can't get in, or like just stuff like that. Maybe
Yeah.
you need like an insignia ring to get in, or something along those lines to make it seem more upscale. And it's always difficult to like balance how high the barrier to entry is and still make money, right? And so, especially in Shanghai, it's actually quite difficult.
Yeah. So let's take it back a little further, like even where you're from, and introduce yourself to people who don't know.
So I'm from Jersey,
Right.
and I'm very proud of being from New Jersey. I think that a lot of people, you know,
Yeah,
they kind
Jersey
of
gets
shy
a
away
bad
from-
rep
We get a bad rep,
sometimes.
yeah. Jersey is amazing, and I always quote my sister. She says about me that I'm very classy in a lot of ways, and then she once told one of my friends, my brother's very classy, and he likes classy things, and he likes all classy things except his girls. And I was just like, because in the end, you really can't take the Jersey out of me, I guess.
Huh.
I'm very.
Where in Jersey?
I'm from actually Central Jersey, which is actually, some people would say, the worst place to be in Jersey, because
Why
you're
is
not
that?
really North Jersey, where you can kind of like commute to the city very easily, and you're not really South Jersey, where you're close to the beach. So we're kind of in the middle, and we were stuck kind of just like in no man's land in Jersey, which is a very small state.
Yeah.
So we were kind of like Central Jersey, and we're not North, we're not South. So we kind of like didn't really have a home almost. You know, Central Jersey is not really a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Long Island, and I'm like 30 minutes away from the beach, but still far enough that it wasn't like a part of my childhood, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Exact
for
same way.
sure,
Yeah.
like on the weekends in the summer, like, yeah, we'd go to the beach every now and then, but it wasn't like for kids who live on the South Shore of Long Island, it's like every day
Every
they
day.
get to go to the beach.
Yeah.
I think that would have changed my life a lot.
I think it would have been a lot cooler, I feel like.
Yeah. Did you go to Jersey Shore? Like,
All the time.
that was a big thing, probably.
But I didn't start going until later in my life. I actually started going after I started working. And I was a swim coach for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And I met my friend Sean, who I hope will listen to this podcast. I'll send it to him.
Sure.
But I met my friend Sean. We were both teaching swimming at the time. And he really got me into just clubbing. And we would go to this club on the Jersey Shore called Surf Club, which is no longer there. But Surf Club was right on the beach. You would have like the indoor, it was half indoor, half outdoor. And then it had its own section of the beach where you could just go outside and kind of relax. But the inside would just be like nonstop, just beats. And it was just meatheads and like hot girls. And like everyone was in swimwear, and it was just meatheads and hot girls.
What decade or what year is this? Like roughly year to year?
07, 08, 09, somewhere around there.
So that's kind of the peak of Jersey Shore as like the TV show.
Yeah.
Even maybe around the same time, right?
Around the same time, yeah.
Did you ever see those dudes out there?
So we actually knew one of them, and I didn't really know him as well. So
Who?
but, like,
Which one?
He was the really jacked one.
Ronnie?
Yeah, Ronnie. That's his name. That's right.
I thought Ronnie was so funny.
Yeah.
All of them were so funny. I think
They were all hilarious.
That's amazing that show, like pop culture, kind of like it really took over.
Yeah.
And that was like a little bit before internet. I have a funny story about Jersey Shore. I went to URI, University of Rhode Island, and Pauly D, the one with like the spiky hair and the DJ, he's from Rhode Island.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
none of them are actually from the Jersey Shore.
Yeah. I think only Sammy was from Long Island.
Yeah, they were mostly from Long Island or like around.
Yeah, that's funny actually.
Yeah.
Anyways, Pauly D, I'm at URI and I go downstairs because we're going out, like go for a walk or something. And we leave the dorm and we see a car that says like Pauly D on the license plate.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's interesting. And then we come back and there's like a mob of people, like hundreds of people around the car. It was insane. And apparently he had gone there to like meet a girl or something. And then people were waiting for like hours to try and see him. And I didn't wait. I was just like, this is just to like see the guy. He was that famous back then. And I think he's gotten a residency in Las Vegas and stuff at this point. Like, it's amazing. Like, so for example, that's an interesting thing is like the two different routes you can take from reality stardom. Like Pauly D did everything right and now has like an amazing career as a DJ. But the situation, that dude, he went down like just a path of drugs and dude, he was on it was like a roast of someone. I think it was Justin Bieber, roast someone. And he was just like, you could tell he was not right on stage. He was just like high on pills and just really like a mess, I guess. Yeah, so it's interesting to see.
But I always feel like, and like both of us have podcasts right now. I like we expect some kind of, I guess, exposure to new people, to new things, and I kind of expect my podcast to get big eventually. Right?
We both hope.
Yeah, we both.
Of course, we both hope.
And like I've always wondered what would happen if I got like Joe Rogan famous. Would I be able to handle it as well as he does? Because he's quite private. Like. He doesn't actually go out. He doesn't really, try to be like in the spotlight all the time. He's actually, other than his podcast, which he basically lays out most of his life, he's actually a pretty private guy. And I like that.
He never talks about his wife, I realize.
Never.
That was like, and he's just, I wonder it's really strange, but whatever. I don't care. I wonder like what his relationship with his wife is like to be able to talk so openly about like, women and like his life on air and I mean he's a comedian so I guess that's part of it why like that's acceptable in a relationship,
right? But
I wonder like how open he is during his podcast and like how he jokes around about women and shit like that. So it's like I wonder like if his wife listens and it's like I heard today, like imagine like
is that what you think of me?
Like, I doubt it. She must be like chill with it, right?
No, because I do the same thing. Like I rag on girls all the time.
Sure.
On my podcast, and I'm always just like, "Yo, girls," because I really, it might just be a Shanghai thing, but a lot of girls that I've dated, I've found very. I want to choose my words carefully. Very empty. Like I've always said that girls, other than eating, sleeping, shopping, like just watching movies, watching TV, if you take away the core amount of like those things, if the girl has anything left, then she's interesting, right? Because otherwise you're just like every other girl. And I say that a lot on my podcast.
Yeah.
And like the girls I date are like, am I like that? And I'm like, well, I don't feel like I would date you if you're kind of just empty, right? Otherwise, you're not different from every other girl on the street.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people have the self-awareness to even like be like, am I basic? And I try like every morning.
Do you think that's just girls in Shanghai? Or,
I don't know.
Or like,
I haven't dated back home in a long time.
Everyone is an individual, so you can't like judge based on necessarily where you're from, but you can generalize, I guess, based on your experience dating here. But
right.
That's an interesting thing is I really haven't dated much in, like now I have a girlfriend and that I've met in Shanghai, but I didn't date much outside of China. Like I don't really know what it's like to date much in America. And I guess is that similar for you? Or
I mean, well, I came here when I was 26, and so I've been here a while. But like I dated pretty well. I mean, growing up in the States, like you start dating kind of young, right?
Yes, yeah.
But
I was a late bloomer. I really didn't
Yeah?
date much in high school, in college, like every now and then, but really grew into myself in Shanghai, I'd say.
so I feel the exact same way.
Hmm.
A lot of people ask me like, why do you like Shanghai so much? And I feel like it's because I really felt, quote, grew up here. When I don't feel like you really find yourself in college. High school was a mess. Like you don't really find yourself until you're like going through some hard times. You're like, now what do I have to do? Like, is this? And then you're kind of like, okay, this is Arthur. And I'm still doing that. Like I feel like that's a lifelong thing. But I really
Sure.
grew into myself here.
Right. I feel the same way. Like the first time that you find yourself, or like you really like a milestone of an event that like, oh, I'm starting to understand more of who I am. It's like the first time I hit that is like, there must be more lessons to come.
Yeah.
Like that's just like the first floodgate to be like, okay, like even if this is like a big moment, I should get excited for even more bigger moments to come. And
Yeah.
like I get hopeful for that kind of stuff. There's a psychologist, self-actualization. So there's
Okay.
like 7 tiers of like getting to know yourself.
Jeez.
So I forget his name, the psychologist, but the final step, like the peak of this pyramid is called self-actualization. And self-actualization is what we're kind of talking about. Finding yourself, like loving who you are, like finding who you truly are and being comfortable with that. And
Do you know the first 6 steps? Because
So-
I would love. Well, tell me who the guy is so I can look it up.
I forget the name. I can put it in the I put a bio or
Okay.
a blog post every episode, so I can put the name of him.
Okay, great. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'll share that later. I wish I had a Jamie right now.
Yeah,
Just
I
pull
know,
that shit
right?
up. But the first steps are just like nurture, like pure, just like you have to be loved by your mother or something. You have to like have been taken care of. And then you have to have like shelter. Like these are like the basic steps to like being, self-sufficient, I guess.
Okay.
Like there's just like a ladder in a sense. You have to check off these boxes as you go up. And the last one I know is self-actualization. And that's kind of like when I learned that in school, I'm like, that one kind of stuck with me because something I'm always interested in is like, how can I just be happy all the time or
Yeah.
as often as you can? Like, yeah, it's great to have money, this, that, and the other, but if you're not happy, then how?
So
what
I
is
ever tell you that I was going to write a book?
it? No, you didn't tell me.
I was going to write a book on how to be happy. And it was when I was, quote, retired. I thought that I would write a book. And it's actually quite difficult to write a book. I didn't know how hard it was.
It is
it's so hard.
It's much easier to do podcasts.
See, the thing is, like, I've written a journal since I was, like, in middle school. So I have tons of handwritten journals in my house. And I just handwrite everything. And I write once, twice, 3 times a week. And it's just random thoughts. And I was like, I've written a journal for 20-some years. Like, I could do it.
Yeah.
Yo, writing a book is so hard. And so, like, I wrote an outline. I figured everything out. And I was going to be like, all right, let's do it. And then the outline, you start writing and you're okay. And then all your ideas start coming in. And it just becomes this kind of like tree of a mess. And in the end, like, nothing stuck with the outline. It was just, I didn't finish it. But I do feel that I've just been either lucky, might be something wrong with my brain, but I'm always happy. And all my friends are like, yo, why are you so happy? And I've really never sat down and analyzed it.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should analyze it. 'Cause
Yeah.
for me, the stuff that brings me down is overanalyzing, overthinking, like overhandling a situation. That's what kind of will tend to bring me down.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm actually the opposite. I feel like if I analyze it, I can make it better. And because I've listened to Tim Ferriss, and I think there's a point that he makes that is quite true. And it's, you never put all of your eggs in one basket, right? So he talks about a lot of people who have 100% invested in their job. And so guys that are just in like hedge funds or just in like these startups that 100% their entire life is this job.
Yeah.
And so when something goes wrong at your job, that's 100% of your life. All of a sudden you've gone from 100 to, or like, let's say 50's happy. They're straight down to 0.
Right.
Because 100% of you is this job. But if you kind of like separate your life into like different baskets, then, oh yeah, a job was horrible today. I'm gonna go to the gym and kill it. And you go to the gym, you do a personal best on, let's say, your squat today.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, today's only half as bad as it would have been, you know? And if you have other interests and you kind of separate everything else, I mean, it's just a small part of your life. If something goes bad there, you work on something else and then you feel better.
It's a very good way to look at it, actually.
Yeah.
It's like spreading out the possible failure. In a
Right.
sense, like
But
lowering
also-
your risk for...
Yeah. It's like hedging your risk.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I feel the same way. Like, I have so many interests that, like, just because something went wrong at the office today doesn't mean that, like, it's the end of the world. I go to JiuJitsu and then I'm like, oh, today's great. I got to choke some people out. Like, today was great. Right?
Yeah, let's talk about your interests, because I know we've done a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I haven't gone that often, but tell me how you got into that. Like,
So my friend Terrence, they're two guys. Terrence and Jimmy are both guys that are, I believe, still training at Absolute. Absolute MMA Shanghai, one of the best schools in Shanghai.
sure.
Both Terrence and Jimmy kind of introduced me to jiu-jitsu. Terrence actually gave me free private lessons at his house.
Wow.
He had these mats that were kind of left over from his old gym, and he just kept them in one of his rooms, and we would put them down in his living room, and then we'd roll around on them for. I'd go once a week, and I would bring my gi, and then he would teach me stuff, and it was good for him, I guess, because he wanted to go over this stuff, and he wasn't training at any place in particular at the time. And then, so I'd go over his house like once a week and just be like, hey, can you teach me some new stuff? And he'd go over it and refresh his mind on how to do stuff. It was awesome. It was a ton of fun. And then my friend Jimmy brought me to Shanghai BJJ. It was the Shanxi, South Shanxi Road one at the time. And it was a nice one. And I still thought it was kind of ratty when I went. But I went and I got choked out, of course. And then I sat there for a while, and I was like, man, like, I can either accept the fact that this guy who is significantly smaller than me choked me out in 30 seconds, or I can figure out how to heat at it. And I spent 2 days kind of thinking about it. I was like, I might just pretend this never happened. Like, I didn't go to this thing. I'm just going to ignore the fact that this thing happened because it was such a blow to my ego that I was just like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
But then I just started going, and now it's a ton of fun.
Were you, I guess because people can have like misunderstandings about what this sport is. So some people will think like it's a very aggro thing. You go there and you just want to beat people up.
Yeah.
But
it's
so
not.
what were you like before the experience of starting to do it?
So I had always done some sort of striking martial arts when I was younger.
Okay.
So I'd done a little bit of like kung fu. My mom actually insisted on it because we were Chinese, American born, but we were Chinese. And so she kind of expected us to have some kind of Chinese culture in our lives. So like I did a little bit of karate at the community center, and I did kung fu, and I did a bunch of like stuff when I was younger. So I kind of felt like I knew how to fight. And then I went into this and I was like, well, I don't really know what to expect. I kind of didn't want to be like such a pussy, to be honest. And then just went, and then I got killed. So.
Yeah, you figured it out as you went. For me, I wrestled in high school. So it was an amazing foundation. Like before I went into BJJ and was just like messing around with the dudes and like figuring it out what it's about, I wrestled in high school. And for me, wrestling in high school was really good experience. Like super solid foundation of structure and discipline. I would go to, even though I didn't want to go, you still go because your friends are there and it's like they'll give you shit if you don't go. The coach becomes your friend after a while. And like they want to like see you progress and get better. And I don't know, it was an amazing experience. And like today, because the coolest thing for me was like I wrestled for the 4 years in high school, and then when I went like maybe 7 years later, 8 years later, even it might have been close to 9 years later at the mat here in Shanghai. My foundation of my skills of wrestling had not like left, had not skipped a beat. Like, sure, I was rusty in some areas, but I was like very surprised how much a lot of it was still with me.
Yeah,
just like the foundation
that's
of
cool.
like, dude. So that was really, really cool to see that come back. And I haven't really stuck with the reason why I didn't do much BJJ like after like I did a couple classes, but then I actually started going to the kickboxing classes.
Yeah.
Muay Thai. Because I want more of a workout. While BJJ can be somewhat of a workout, I feel like it's more training for. It depends on how you do it and how you approach it.
Okay.
What do you think? Like in terms of getting like a physical workout, like working up a
How
sweat.
long have you been with your girlfriend?
How long have I been with a girlfriend? Like 2 years now.
Okay. Most guys that do BJJ switch to the striking side because the girls are hotter on the striking side.
That's not
A lot.
That's not-
I would say 70% of the guys that go to striking, it's because the girls are hotter on the striking side. Almost
That might be
always.
the case. For me, it was because I actually worked up a sweat while doing the Muay Thai.
Jawad's classes are hard.
Yeah, they're
really
not
hard.
easy. And so
Yeah.
I enjoyed like hitting a bag as well. I found very nice. I'd never done that up
Yeah.
until the class. Like really enjoyed hitting the bag, and kicking was actually very difficult for me. Like
Yeah.
I could kick with my right leg somewhat comfortably. I wasn't good, but I was at least comfortable.
Yeah.
My left leg, it felt like I'm writing with my left hand.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. Like, and I've never had this thing with ego. Like, if something is hard for me, it doesn't like blow my ego. Like
Yeah.
other people, like you just said, like blew my ego.
Yeah.
Like fucked me up. I've never had that in my life. I don't know what, like, I always feel like I'm low or I'm
Yeah.
self-conscious. So when something is hard for me, it doesn't like set me back a couple steps. I'm just like, oh yeah, of course it was hard. It's always hard for me. You know, that's why I find interesting when people say like it blew their ego.
I'm a huge narcissist. I would say that might be probably why I'm not in like a real relationship. It's just that I love myself so much. Like I find that I'm always just like, I don't understand how you can give up a portion of your life. Let's say it's JiuJitsu or it's Muay Thai or arch, whatever you're into. You would give up a part of yourself for someone else. Like I've never felt like that's not a logical thing that goes through my head. I'm like, I like myself more.
right.
So I kind of want to keep doing what I'm doing. You know, I play a lot of Magic the Gathering, which is a very nerdy thing to do, but I love it. I've playing it since I was a kid, and I see these guys that come in and they play every week, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I got a girlfriend." They play every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Other girlfriend, it's got serious. They play once a month, maybe, and then they get married and they're gone.
Right.
And I'm just like, this was like a huge part of your life for like the last 2 years, and you just kind of gave it up for what? I've never felt like that was a logical trade-off.
Well, I think that's what love is it's not logical.
Yeah.
Love is just like you gotta invest in it, and it might not make sense in the moment, and especially to people on the outside like you, it's not going to make sense, and on the inside it's even confusing.
Yeah.
So you're still trying to figure out what's going on, and then but that's what part of it is. Like you're making sacrifices for a relationship, and in an ideal world I guess you wouldn't want to, but when you're dealing with someone else's interests and like who they are, like you have to make sacrifice. It's about balance though.
Agree.
So I guess it's just a personal decision for that person who wanted to like stop going to these things. And I guess that's like an interesting way to measure it is like, okay, so like eventually this person ended up not going to this thing at all.
Yeah.
So at some point, did he hit like a level of unhealthy relationship, or do you just change as a person?
Maybe he changed as a person, but
Yeah.
I feel like everyone should have pillars, right? I refer to them as pillars in your life, and these pillars represent your principles, who you are, and who you think you are. I have my pillars are often things like I don't drink. No matter who you are, I won't drink with you. There are just certain things that I believe I won't change for anyone, and some of them are my interests. Like this is my interest. I won't leave this interest for someone else. You know, some of my interests are smaller interests, and so they're probably okay. But like for you, you skate, right? Would you give up skateboarding for a girl?
Almost
definitely not.
Like
right?
I would say 100% not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But some people who have maybe played Magic since they were like little kids gave it up for a girl, and I was just like, this has been a part of your life since you were, 10 years old. Why are you giving it up now? And they can't really explain it. They're just like, girl, man.
Yeah, that's got to be a little unhealthy.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
like
has
if
to
I
be.
had to make like a judgment,
And you don't know, right? I don't know.
we both don't know. But
Right.
if I had to, like, that's unhealthy to fully give up something that you did love at one point. Mm-hmm. It just seems like change is good, but there might be an unhealthy amount of change.
Right.
At a certain point.
And so I'm always kind of like, well, if this is such a big part of your life, is the trade-off important enough that you're like, okay, it's worth it? And I hate to go back to Magic being like a nerdy thing, but like a lot of my friends back at home who played Magic, like it was a nerdy thing. Like we were always just with the guys, and we had always, not been very good with girls. So all of a sudden, when you get a girlfriend, you're like, like this is everything. This is my whole life. And I've seen that happen to people, not just in Magic, but like just every day in life. Like they're like, I need to like have a girl and like in order to be whole. And I'm like, I'm not sure you do. There are other ways to like be fulfilled. You don't need to have a girlfriend and like raise kids and have just, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. Something I wanted to say while we were talking about ego, and as you were talking, it kind of came into my mind. One of the reasons why I don't think I have a big ego is through skateboarding, actually. It's because like within the culture of skateboarding, it's very important to like not be like braggy or show off. Like if you land a trick, you don't make a big deal out of it. Like, when you're skating with other friends, it's kind of like you want to play it cool in a sense.
Really?
Yeah, like you do, like it's totally anti-cool to like start like boasting yourself up because you did something cool. It's like you play it cool and then everyone's like, oh damn, like he didn't even care that he did that amazing trick.
Yeah.
That's the culture of it. And also like
It's the same in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also if someone is going for a trick, it's very like poor etiquette to go for the same trick while they're doing it. So yeah,
I see that.
So that's I think a big part of it. Like while I was younger and growing up, I did learn that etiquette quite quickly. So yeah, I wonder if that could be the reason why my ego is not like
I'm not sure.
boasting.
But I always feel like people should keep with that, right? It's not just jiu-jitsu. It's actually a lot of things. We were talking about, I was actually with two of my friends talking about Magic last night. Both of them named James and both quite famous in the Magic circles in China and also in the States. But we were talking about how some of the Magic pros, they get really excited or they tilt, right? They get really angry when something, doesn't go their way. Or like they cheer when, they've done something very well. And in that culture as well, it's actually frowned upon. It's better just to like shake your opponent's hand, good job, smile and like move on. But I don't know if that's right. And here, from my point of view,
So you want to brag, you want to boast, you want to have a good time rather, maybe.
I would rather you just show your passions.
True emotion?
Yeah, your true emotions. Just be you. Like
That's
if you
a good-
feel happy,
yeah.
just be happy, man. And if you're tilted, just tilt. Like there's this move in our culture now towards almost being more robotic, I feel like, where we kind of close off our emotions, especially for guys.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of guys are just like, I'm going to be stoic. I'm going to not show emotion. I'm just going to be a rock. And there's some benefit to that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I also feel like you're happy, just be happy, man. Like let it out. And you don't have to like bottle it in and just pretend it didn't like, well, why aren't you cheering? Like if you won something, like just cheer, put your fist in the air. Like, why not? Why are you a robot? How are we different from robots if we don't show our emotions, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think there is a big problem with men in general not being able to show their emotions. They feel like they have to be stoic, as you said. And you also said you don't like social media. Right?
I hate it.
Right. And I think this relates a little bit to social media and like how we portray our emotions on social media is like an extension for a lot of people, especially kids growing up and like they're in middle school now, they're learning about social media, they're getting into it. Like it's such a big part of their lives. And for you, it never was. Like, tell me why you never got into social media, or is there a reason? Or?
Actually, I was into social media for a little bit. And then I hate it now because I think it's fake. I think too many people are putting up who they want to be or
Right.
who they want the world to see them as. And it's not how they really feel. It's not how they really, it's just not who they really are. I feel like a lot of people confuse their online persona with who they actually are offline. A great example would be like, let's say on Tinder, right? A lot of guys will be very forward on Tinder or in China on Tantan. They'd be like, oh, I want to do this to you. I want to like, oh, I'm such a badass. And then in real life, they sit down with the actual girl who has this feeling that you're this badass. And then you sit there quietly and you don't do shit. Like, it's because who you are, and then you can't actually online, but then you can't actually do it in real life. Like, there's a problem with that. To me, that's not what I want. Like, I use social media to push my podcast. Occasionally, I'll do it because, hey, my friends have something going on, I'll push it. Or something just clicks in my head. I'm like, oh, this is really cool, I'll post it.
Right.
But like, I'll never be like, oh, this is, fake Arthur, but I want everyone to think this is real Arthur. Like that, to me, I'm like, why would you do that? Why don't you just be yourself?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't like who they are, I think.
Exactly. No, that's the point. And I feel like that's not just, that's a societal problem. Like, I love who I am. And so I'm very happy to be real me. I've told myself, like, this is one of my goals going forward, is that I want to be Arthur. No matter, I'm sitting across from you, I'm sitting across from a CEO, I'm sitting across from the president. I hope that I'm still me.
Right.
Like, I'm not just some fake me that's like a kiss ass because you're a CEO of some company. I just want to be me. Like, I feel like that's something that Joe Rogan always brings, right?
Sure.
He has Elon Musk on and he's just like, I'm just still Joe Rogan. You want a blunt? Like, that's awesome because it's so real. He's not putting up fronts. He's just like, if I don't know it, I don't know it. Like, this is kind of just me. Please teach me. And that's, again, part of why he has like less ego. I'm not there yet.
I have a lot of fun with that mentality of just being yourself. Just like,
You can tell from your podcast, by the way.
Thank you. And like, when I meet someone, for example, like, I've been lucky enough to tour around pro skateboarders around Shanghai. And when I'll talk to them, like, just as I would talk to my Baoan downstairs, like,
Exactly.
they know it. People feel it. It's an energy that people understand and recognize.
Yeah.
And that makes them so much more interested in you when you're truly yourself.
Agree.
And don't get me wrong. Like, some days, like, it's harder to be yourself. Like, for me, I have ups and downs.
Me too.
So, but I totally enjoy this feeling of like having a conversation with someone that can recognize when you're yourself. It's a very like powerful thing, I think.
It's hard because, especially in the society we live in now, a lot of people go to office jobs where you have to kind of put on a face. You have to put on a mask and be like, oh, I'm this very like nice, ordinary cog in this machine. When the CEO comes, I'm very respectful. Are you really that person? Maybe not. And you use this persona to get past the interview. You use this persona to get, your job and like to keep your job.
Yeah.
But are you really that person? And let's say you're not. If you're not that person, you keep that mask on for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Not only
super unhealthy.
Yeah,
It must
that
be terrible.
Cannot be healthy for
Yeah.
you. So when you take off that mask, how hard is it to take off that mask? Like, at some point, that thing is going to stay on your face. You're going to become this persona that you might not want to be. And because you keep it on 5 days a week, you might be able to take it off on the weekends, but it's difficult. It gets harder and harder. And eventually, it becomes part of your face. And then when you do, like, is that who you want to be? Like, that's not who I want to be.
I guess it's like what we're talking about a little bit is political correctness and like how politically correct or you want to be in the workplace. So like there must be a fine line because like in reality you have to. That's why people wear a suit to work.
Yeah.
Kind of just to like fit in and not like break the mold, just keep things professional. So I wonder if it's just a matter of finding the line between like your personality but I think what's interesting is we're going in a direction as a society of like, we're able to potentially be entrepreneurs with like this podcast, with Instagram.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be as politically correct anymore. And that's something I actually struggle with a little bit myself is like, I'm putting out all these ideas and my
Yeah.
true self, like that's permanently on the internet forever.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit scary and it's liberating. Like I have fun doing it and I think people benefit, but I do sometimes worry like what are the potential consequences in the future for me being so open right now and me being myself and just like, do you ever feel the same way? Because you do a podcast as well.
I'll be honest, sometimes I think about it. And I feel like the benefits for my emotional health outweigh whatever comes in the future. I'm not running for president. Maybe Joe Rogan for president. I doubt it. But like, I don't feel like the benefits outweigh the potential, I don't know, future backlash because I'm very happy just being me.
Yeah.
And I'm growing as a person. So I feel like if I say something wrong today and 5 years from now someone digs that up, I'm not the same person. Like I've grown up and maybe I don't believe in that anymore. Or maybe I do. And if I do, I'm going to say I still believe in that.
Right.
And you can go dig up 5 years ago and if I still believe in it, I'll still say it again. But it depends on, I just feel like some people are just assholes.
Definitely. And people, I mean, like most of the things, like the negative that I'm talking about is really only going to apply to famous people.
Yeah.
In a sense, like no one's going to dig up this podcast in 10 years unless I've like grown. So it's almost like a win-win. Like if they do shit on me for the things that I've said, it's like I've made it in a sense. And then I can like, I'll have fuck you money and I can just kind of like keep on doing something like this. But one part, like I like your having like pillars of your life. I like how you have that metaphor and sounds like you might have them written down or they're in your head at least.
Yeah.
For me, one of the things that maybe I like to keep doing is what you said. Like if I've said something wrong, I want to either defend it, like, or if I don't think it's wrong, defend it. Or if I've come to realize it's wrong, be very okay to admit my mistake and kind of move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's super healthy to be able to do. And also as a person, grow in that respect is super healthy.
Because I've seen Joe Rogan do it.
Yeah.
Like he was like, yo, when I, like back in like episode 100, I've said a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. But we've all grown with you. Like you're on podcast 1,000 something, right? 1,300. Like, I get it. You've grown. I've grown. My podcast is at 130-ish. I've grown. Like, I feel like the more I talk to people, I get a little bit of them. And I'm like, oh, that was interesting. Like, that was really cool. I can see myself go in that direction. And I grow. I can't imagine having 1,000 under my belt. Like, that's crazy. That's just, it's a lot of new information that you don't actually get just from walking down the street, right? You see all these people, you don't interact with them. You're just like, hey, and you move on. Like, we're in a city of like so many people, and yet still we don't really interact like this.
Definitely. One of the things that you mentioned when we did your podcast like a year ago.
Yeah.
You said what you like about it is the ability to have people on and an excuse. Like you wouldn't never have been able to do that before.
Never.
Right.
And we still can't. Like, do you feel like you have these conversations in person? It's rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare. So that's one of the reasons why I started as well. I looked at it like that. Like, how often do we turn our phones on airplane mode for an hour and like make eye contact and like have this conversation?
Yeah.
I just find it really refreshing.
It's really good. And it might be our jobs. Like, my job now is actually much easier. I used to have a really difficult job at the beginning of this year, and I've kind of gotten a much better work-life balance. So now I've started hanging out more with friends. I've started like rebuilding my social life, which was a mess in January. And last night, like I said, I hung out with two friends that are very good friends, and we sat down and we talked, and I didn't take out my phone once. And I felt so much better. And even so now I'm doing it like even without the podcast. I'm just like, hey guys, let's just hang out. You know, we'll go, you guys can have a drink. I'm going to have a chicken sandwich. And it was delightful. Like, I had a great time. And we sat there for 3 hours just sitting and talking.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get into the flow of a conversation,
It's
it just takes that like little bit of energy to to get it started, and then it will just snowball and have
Yeah.
a good time. What I wanted to kind of go into is your history in Shanghai. Like, what brought you to China? I guess you have like Chinese ancestry, right? Or like your family. But what's your story about like how you came to Shanghai? Or
So a lot of people ask me this, and my go-to answer has always been that I'm kind of here to get away from my dad. My dad's I wouldn't say very famous. My dad is quite well known on Wall Street. He's worked at several banks. He's worked at he's been in the industry. And I've always felt like and I studied finance. So if I went into Wall Street, you kind of live in your dad's shadow. And it's kind of always like, oh, you're Wei King's son. And that's never something that I really wanted. I've always kind of wanted to be my own person. So I kind of ran away in a sense where I was just like, I'm going to go as far as I can away from New York.
Yeah.
Right? 12-hour difference all the way across the world and see what I can do out here. So I didn't really know anyone when I came out here. I had one friend and I didn't really know Chinese that well. And it was just kind of, let's start from zero. Let's see what we can do. I'd studied abroad here with my sister for a summer. And we just did like a Chinese program where you learn Chinese and hang out with some study abroad people. And that was great. And so I knew that I had actually kind of liked Shanghai. And so when I came back, I was like, okay, it's a little bit different, but I kind of know where I am. So let's roll with it. And I've just been here since. Like it's been a ride, but I love it. I'm very happy here.
yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here, 8 years? 8, almost, it's coming up on 9.
Was your first job the club?
No. So I came here doing finance. I had a finance internship because you needed 2 years of experience in something in order to get a job here. So I was like, well, I can only do finance.
Yeah.
So, but I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to keep doing finance. So it was, I mean, I've told this story a lot and I don't like telling it again, but I feel like it's necessary. I had a choice after the finance job to either go with my friend Terrence, who's also the BJJ friend that I talk about. Either go with Terrence and continue to do finance. Terrence and I are very similar. We liked fashion at the time. We liked a lot of the same stuff. Or go with this other guy, Kelvin, who was opening up a club. And at the time, I chose to go with the club, but for the wrong reason. I felt like I wanted to be more like Kelvin at the time. And then years later, I figured out you don't actually ever want to be more like someone. You actually always want to be more like yourself, right? Like at the time, the decision was, do I want to be more like Terrence or do I want to be more like Kelvin? And so I see them both and I wanted to be more like Kelvin. So I was like, all right, let's go this way. And eventually, like years later, I figured out I don't want to be more like either of them. I just want to be more like me and to really figure out who I am and be more me, because there's no one that can be better Arthur than Arthur. Like I just want to be Arthur.
Right.
So in the end, I realized it was the wrong decision. It might have been the right decision, but for the wrong reasons.
Deep story, man. That's definitely like a chapter turning moment.
It was rough
in someone's life.
Yeah.
I've gone through similar stuff like that.
In Shanghai?
Not in Shanghai. It was when I was going to college. Like, I don't know if I told this story or not, but like I was, applying for colleges and I got into a school that I really wanted to go to, but then I found
Rhode
out.
Island.
I got into Champlain.
Okay.
Which is in Burlington, Vermont. And then I found out my friend, who was my friend throughout high school, but then we faded out and weren't such good friends. I found out he was going to that school. And that's the reason why I didn't want to go to the school, Champlain, because like I didn't want to start over. And then he was also there. It was like a rather small school. Such a silly reason to not go.
Yeah.
But you're younger back then.
Yeah, you don't know.
But that's crazy. That's the reason why. So I did go to URI for my first year. and I didn't like it. And
Okay.
like I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. Like I was going to frat parties and
Yeah.
like trying to join a fraternity and didn't even get in. It was just not fun at all. Like not the community I wanted to be involved with. But then eventually, I think it was interesting though that it took me experiencing something I like and trying to be something I didn't want to be, and like I hate this. And I transferred and went to Champlain.
Okay. Oh,
Even
nice.
though he was still there.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? He was there for that full year, and then when I transferred there, he ended up leaving. So he wasn't even there. And we're still good friends. Like we're friendly. We're not friends, but we're totally friendly. It was nothing. It was
Right.
more just like my problem that I didn't want to be around someone that like affected me in a way that it was like internal problem. But such a weird turn of events that like I accept it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be at the same school as this guy, and he ends up leaving anyways. So it's just kind of like you can't control what's gonna happen around you.
Right.
You gotta just go for what feels right to you.
And because my sister was recently in Shanghai, we had actually talked about this. She has a problem dancing in public. She doesn't dance at clubs. A lot of people don't.
I'd prefer not to. I have to be quite intoxicated to dance.
Most people are like that. And why? Why don't you like to dance?
For me, it's more like I'm self-conscious about people looking at me. I guess like that's a simple reason.
Do you realize that no one's actually looking at you at the club?
No.
Almost no one is looking at you.
Almost no one, yeah.
And it took, I'd been clubbing since I was very young. So actually, no. Like, no one's looking at you when you dance. Someone will glance at you and then look the other way. Like, it's very rare that someone's like looking at you the whole time.
Yeah.
And I started dancing at the club with my eyes closed. I would just pretend no one's in the room, soak in the music, and just start dancing. And I was a terrible dancer when I started. I remember walking into the dance circle, freezing up, and be like,
Yeah.
and then just backing out, and everyone was like, "Boo!" And I didn't dance for like months after that.
Arthur, no.
But then I was like, it doesn't matter, man. Like, if you just go into the dance circle, do whatever stupid moves, and just own it, you're okay.
It's about owning it.
It is about owning it.
That's the moral of the
And
story.
then it's not a big deal. Like, after I realized that, I got into dance circles, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And I got over it.
Yeah.
And it was just that it's that little self-conscious thing that you have to like, just take a small step over it, and you're fine.
Yeah, dude. That's something I wanted to ask you as well. Is like your whole clubbing and dancing. How long have you not been drinking for?
11 years, 12 years now. 12 years.
So at one point you were drinking in your
college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a big reason as to why you stopped, or?
Everybody asks me that, and it's not a big reason.
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me, Arthur, I bet you can't go a month without drinking. I was like, I can do it.
Yeah.
And being the narcissist that I am, I was like, I can do anything. And then after a month, I looked at my bank account. I was like, I have a lot of money. And I felt really healthy that entire month. I wasn't waking up hungover. I was like, I feel really good this month. I was hitting new records on the bench. At the time, I was still swimming on and off, but I was doing quite well in the pool. I was just like, this is great. Why am I not doing this all the time? And part of it's because I never really needed to drink to have a good time at the club. I was just the kind of guy that would just close my eyes, enjoy the music, and I would just start dancing. And I'd be okay. So there was no reason for me to keep drinking. Like, it was only detriment from a logical, I guess, point of view. I was just like, I'm doing terrible things to my wallet and my body. At the time, I was barely making money. So why am I wasting all my money on cheap booze? Just save it and then buy something cool. So I was just like, I don't need this. And then from then on, I just never drank.
That's super interesting, though. So you've never had a drink in Shanghai.
So
This 8-year bout, at least. Yeah, and then you decided to still go into the clubbing business.
see, the thing is,
That's what I find fascinating. It's like,
in China, the drinking culture is different, right? Everyone expects you to ganbei, which is drink the whole drink.
yes.
But if you tell one person that you don't drink at all, they might believe you. If you tell 2 people, at some point you build up a reputation where you don't drink with anyone. But if you break that reputation, you're fucked.
Exactly.
Because I drank with her. Now I have to drink with you.
Yeah.
Now, you fuck it. So you have to keep it going.
It's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing. Yeah. And
That's
so
How much do you feel you understand the Chinese culture?
I'm still scratching the surface.
Right?
Even now, I'm still scratching the surface.
That's what I mean, my theory is like, it's just such an evolving, I mean, from a business perspective, like there's so many ways to look at culture, right? Like from business, like people are like, oh, you don't understand the Chinese market. Like I do. Like, it's like, I don't think anyone really does because it's such an evolving market.
Yep.
So and then getting back just more to like the cultural aspect of drinking, it's like, yeah, that's something that you can at least, it's a little more concrete that like you can understand after a certain point,
Yeah.
right?
It takes a little bit of time, but like I mean, I was in the club a lot, so like you kind of live that life for a little bit. You see it. I'll give a great example. My first introduction to Chinese drinking was really scary. I was at the investment bank, and my managing director at the time invited me and the other intern out to a club called Phoebe, which I don't know if still exists. It might. It's on Hensanlu at the time.
Okay.
And at Phoebe Club, we walked in, and he was doing okay. He had a couple girls around him. Everyone was just kind of doing okay. Me and the intern leave to go to a cheaper club because we didn't have that much money at the time. We come back at around, I want to say, 2 in the morning, and just in time to see my managing director puke an entire line, waddle, and puke at the same time to the bathroom. And immediately I was like, whoa, what is this? I imagine this guy like legs spread, puking while walking to the bathroom. And I was just like, ugh. And I work for this guy?
Yeah.
But that's Chinese culture to some extent. At the time, that's what it was.
Like you'll see most people who have lived in China for a couple plus years will have an experience. Like I was at dinner one time, me and my friends at this like Hunan restaurant on Wulamuchi Lu, and like a company drinking like dinner, and eventually it escalates to the boss like you need a drink, like the boss drinks with everyone, or it might have been a celebration where one person has to drink with everyone, and it gets to the point where one of the guys, the younger employees, doesn't want to drink. And the boss is like literally like pulling the guy's mouth, and like trying to force a bottle into this guy's mouth.
Yep.
And
I've
it's
seen
like,
it too.
and then like other people in the group like are like kind of like nervously laughing / like understand like this is just what this is, like this is what it is.
Yep.
That's like kind of the mentality, like the vibe in the room. This is what it is. Like we're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where they're literally wrestling on the ground, like fighting over trying to get this guy to take a drink.
It's pretty crazy.
And that's just like
Mind-boggling to us.
it is what it is type of mentality.
Yep.
And oh man, it like to me, I guess it's mind-boggling. Like for me, that's like a wild night out with friends. You know what I mean? But that's like an unheard of night out with your company in America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty wild. So I guess you already told your wild story of like your company culture, but like the one time you experienced it in your company.
Well, it was the first time. And then I was just kind of like, what am I getting myself into? Like, is that going to be me in a couple months? And I was actually quite nervous. But I don't know. Have you had that like at any of your companies?
No. I've always worked in
mostly expat companies. Thank God. It actually saves you a lot of like stress,
differences and stress. And I mean, I've been to, my friend used to work at Shanghai Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's funny. They were doing an awards ceremony that year. Like they basically, they do like, oh, this is the best cafe in town. This is the best bar. This is the best that and the other. And a lot of the people don't show up to accept their awards. So I was there with my friend, like helping my friend by being there and accepting awards on behalf of other like companies and stuff. Cool. So I'm in a suit, like joking around, like for the year 2018, accepting like so many, like 5 different awards, and it's just like all for show. It's just kind of funny that like that kind of stuff exists.
I mean, how many of those? I don't know about Shanghai Wow, so I don't want to say anything. But how many of those are actually real, right? How many of these awards are actually real?
Oh, I would guess, like, not to talk down on Shanghai Wow, I have friends there, but like, it is a business thing. It's more about just like you create these contests and these awards just as like an ability to have a platform to put it up on.
Right.
Like it's like another thing to post about. It's just another thing.
That's what I assumed as well.
And you know what's funny? It's like you can bring that all the way up to the top of like Golden Globes and Emmys. And
That's
like,
what I want to say too.
it's all kind of fake.
Yeah.
Like Jerry Seinfeld, like it's all just nonsense. He talks about when there's award ceremonies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a part of that. It's all nonsense. Like if there's any for-profit for these companies to be able to make money, it's not real.
That's how I feel as well. And which is another reason why I don't like social media. I'm like, this is the only reason you're posting about this. It's kind of fake. Like, why do you care? It makes no sense to me that this fake award is like noteworthy in your life when you know it's fake. Like, if you know it's not fake, maybe post about it. I'll give you a great example. That's kind of why I like JiuJitsu. Like, if you tap someone, it's real. Like, you feel it. It's this guy's been fighting you this whole time, and you finally tap him. That's real. That's worth my time on social media to post about. And you shouldn't, obviously, but it's worth my time because I've actually done something real. Whereas your restaurant winning a fake award is not worth posting about.
Right.
But people have to do it because it makes money.
Right. It's
And that
just like a
bothers the fuck
business
out of me.
thing.
That bothers the fuck out of me.
So what are you doing right now for work?
So I'm at this. Am I allowed to be like, hey, this is my new company?
Plug.
So I'm working at Park Lou, which is a KOL platform, and I like it because it actually might help my my podcast. But
Park Lou is a KOL platform, you just said?
yes, so it's a platform which is basically a job site. If you want to think about it very simply, it's a job site where brands are like, hey, I need a KOL on Weibo who has this many followers and in fashion. And they have this much engagement, blah, 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 blah. And so they put out this ad, and then all these KOLs who are also on the platform were like, oh, I fit those criteria.
Right.
Let me go apply for this.
Sweet. It's like a
And then
matchmaking service.
It's just a matchmaking service for brands and KOLs. And it's really simple on that sense. What I'm doing, I'm actually helping out the tech team. We're trying to build a recommendation engine. So it's more machine learning, where the machine now knows I have X amount of fashion brands who have these needs. Let me go find those KOLs now, and you don't even have to. I'm just going to recommend them to you. Like, these are people that would probably fit what you're looking for, because I have now all this data on. We have 90,000 KOLs on our platform. So I have all this data of all these brands who have used these KOLs. So why not, like, let's start doing recommendations, as opposed, you don't even have to post stuff. Let me recommend you stuff.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
It is really exciting.
So the KOLs, have they signed up, or is it as simple as you're able to put them into your algorithm,
so
or your platform?
some of them sign up, some of them we just scrape their data online, because in China it's actually quite difficult. In the US, you get this data, you ask Facebook for the API, they plug it in, you get the data.
Yeah.
Instagram, same thing. Like, in the Western world, it's actually quite simple to get the data. In China, it's quite difficult. You have to scrape public data. So we have servers that go in and grab the interactions, grab all of their followers. And our servers are just constantly, so that technology is actually quite different from the Western world, but also interesting.
Yeah.
You know, so you sit there and you're just like, well, I need this data now. Our computers or our servers are scraping the data, let's say all of our entire platform once every 2 days. Like, it gets the whole platform, and all the data is renewed every 2 days. And you have to get the data now. So, like, what do you have to do to kind of, the tech stuff is a little bit more confusing.
That's interesting. It's also kind of funny that, like, you somewhat have a dislike for KOLs or social media, and yet you're working with it. What inspired you to, like, get involved with this industry or business then?
Well, KOLs are hot right now, right? They're very hot in China right now.
In China, I guess it's like almost like a pure business thing.
Yeah,
like,
it is just like pure business.
Yeah.
And previously I was in e-commerce, which is also hot in China right now. You would say these two things are the biggest learning experiences for me. From that sense, I feel like it's a great learning experience. Like, why not learn from the biggest e-commerce people in the world? Like, Taobao makes more money than God, basically, right? Like it just
Dude, Taobao, they made like $30-something billion in one day.
in one day. It was ridiculous.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah. So you want to learn from the best and what's going on hot right now. I am pretty against social media, but if you're making a business out of it, do it, man. Like,
Okay.
At some point, like,
That's good that you
Cool.
own it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm happy. Like, I was a little hesitant to ask that question. Like, I don't want to be confrontational.
Yeah,
but
no.
like, it's just like you're open about it. Like, yeah, this is like a business
it's
decision.
not me,
Yeah.
but hey, you got to do what you got to do. Like, you got to eat. So it's just not something that I would do. Right?
Yeah. Do you have the opportunity to maybe meet any of these KOLs? Like,
We do.
It'd be cool to interact with them. Like, another thing is like, so if you don't know much about even social media, because you don't even use it, but what are the main platforms that people are using? I think it's like Douyin and
Douyin's
Weibo.
really popular. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like your perspective on what's hot, because I don't know much about Chinese social media.
Yeah. So WeChat is obviously the most popular. WeChat and Weibo, most brands will ask for those followers.
Okay.
Douyin is really popular right now, which is the China version of TikTok. And I feel like we used to have Instagram, now we don't. But like Xiaohongshu, Little Red Book, is quite popular as well.
I've heard about that. It's like another version, like kind of a ripoff of Instagram, or is it close to Instagram, or what is it closest to me to understand?
It's pretty similar to Instagram, but with a sales function. So you can actually sell stuff through Xiaohongshu.
Nice.
which
Yeah,
is nice.
yeah. Instagram is trying to do that, but it's
Yeah.
not that smooth.
Yeah, and so they're doing it just purely from a sales perspective at this point, where you're a KOL on my platform, but you can also sell shit. They're limiting the amount of stores right now to 5,000, but they have to grow it. But it's very interesting to see how they're doing that, to linking e-commerce to these KOLs.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm super excited.
it's very exciting. Like I'm actually really interested in just seeing the growth. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be like actually in the trenches, but just watching it is very interesting to me.
Do you have any goals for yourself, like in the next couple years, like for the company, for you, like what are you looking forward to as we start to wrap up?
Okay, from a career perspective,
Yeah.
I'm very happy to build out this platform. I see myself at this company at least for the next 2 or 3 years.
Awesome.
I think it's a great company. I see a lot of myself in the CEO. So she's really one of the reasons that I just see a lot of similarities between the two of us. So I'm very happy to be working there. But I also see my career as a very small part of my life. I'd rather get my blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I recently gave in fully to being more like Joe Rogan, and I bought a bow. I've been shooting wooden bows, recurve bows for a year, 2 years now.
Really?
And
Where do you shoot?
in Xingtiandi.
Okay.
There's
no
a shooting
way.
range.
It's really close to here.
Yeah, it's great. I'll introduce you to that.
Yeah, I'd like to try it.
And-
my cousin does it, and he really loves it.
And now I just bought a compound bow. I was like, it's beautiful. And I bought a compound bow. Like I gave in. I was like, nah, I can shoot recurve like forever. It's easy. There are no gears. You don't have to-
recurve is harder, right?
It's harder
Than
Yeah.
compound.
It's-
Compound is kind of like you pull it back and like it holds itself.
Yeah.
Recurve is like all your
It's
energy.
all you
Yeah,
holding
yeah,
the
yeah,
bowstring.
yeah.
The compound bow is easier. It's actually pretty hard in the beginning, and then there's a drop in the weight, and then it's actually quite easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have like tried it way long ago. So anyways, you're getting into that now?
So I mean,
Or
I've
you've
always been
into
into
it,
shooting,
I guess. Yeah.
but I was always like, nah, I'm nothing like Joe Rogan. I shoot recurve, and then
Just trying to differentiate
yeah,
yourself.
and then I was like, oh, the compound bow is so nice, and I bought it. But like all this kind of stuff, that's kind of what I'm more into. Like I'd rather get my blue belt. I'd rather get better at archery. Just little things around. I want to keep playing Magic. Like that kind of stuff is just slightly more important than my job. To me, like I can't say they're more important. They're equally important, but they're just more aspects of my life than getting better at my work.
Right. Well, keep with it and
Yeah.
the eggs in the basket thing.
Right.
Keep-
Exactly.
Keep growing the baskets. I
Yeah,
guess.
man.
Sweet. Can you tell people where they can listen to your podcast?
Okay, so I'm on iTunes. It's the Bing King Podcast, BingKing, one word, and then podcast. But I'm also on a whole bunch of other platforms, whatever Libsyn gives me. And then for China, I'm on Himalaya FM, which I love. It's actually a very easy system to upload and stuff. So HimalayaFM.com for China users.
Awesome. Arthur, thanks a bunch,
Thank you.
man.
This was a ton of fun. I'm really happy you invited me out.
Of course. I'll have you on again soon, man.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Boom. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this podcast valuable, there are many ways you can support it. You can rate and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to this channel and like the video. Or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my website. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. Also, if you enjoyed the intro and outro music, it was made by my brother, Danny Greenberg. You can go and check out his beats at soundcloud.com/estoric, ESTORIC. Okay, that's it for now. Peace.